This is Danny Flexon here for Seconds Out. I'd like to be joined by my good friend and top boxing pundit, former pro, expert, Spencer Fearon, a historian. I always miss that one out. It's probably what you're most renowned for these days. How's everything going?
I'm all right. I'm just stretching right now, trying to get rid of this bloody before I have to go out and do our bits. I've got to run into the office later on today, but it is what it is. Not working from home today, but yeah. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. Thank you. Before we crack on with everything, I should just say I want to extend sympathies of myself, everyone at Seconds Out, for the passing of your mum recently. Of course, awful news, obviously, and I don't want to, make you talk about stuff you're uncomfortable with. But I just wanted to say sorry for your loss.
And thank you all the same. What is this like? It was a year to the day, so we had but it never gets easy. But within that time, I've got to send out my deepest condolences to one of my longtime friends from school days, Rudy, just lost his dad on Saturday, and also to the people of the PCU, to all of the Bowles family, because they lost their father. So, and their dad was a reverend. So it's that time, and it's emotional. But yeah, it is what it is, and we just keep on trying to push on and keep on. It is what it is. It is what it is.
Fair enough. I extend the same wishes as you've just expressed. I didn't know about those passings, obviously, apart from your own. So yeah. Obviously, thoughts go out to everyone involved. We're here to talk predominantly about the big fight taking place this weekend, a fight that we've waited a long time for, between Errol Spence. Go on.
What big fight is that, Dan?
Yeah. There's no one talking about it. Errol Spence and Terence Crawford for all the gold at welterweight. The biggest fight in the division, arguably, since Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran, the second time, I guess. What do you make of the fight?
No. The biggest fight since Sugar Ray Leonard versus Tommy Hearns, and that was September of '81. Duran and Leonard was before that.
Okay, yeah, fair point.
Come on, Dan.
You're the historian.
Bro, you've let me down on that one, Dan. But it's still a massive fight, regardless, because both of them they're still massive fights.
Yeah, I got my order wrong there, but yeah,
it's okay.
Because I don't know. I had it in my head that Leonard and Hearns were both unbeaten going into their fight, but it can't have been if it was later than the Duran fight. So yeah, it must have been one loss for Leonard and unbeaten for Hearns.
One loss going into that fight that he avenged in November of 1980 against Roberto Duran. But yeah, when Duran famously quit and said no mas. But no mas, yeah.
Well, it's always good to start off with a correction.
Come on, yeah, it's me you're talking to, man.
I know. I've slept on you there.
Exactly. If you listen more regularly to The Fight Is Right, you hear this stuff regularly. You can take notes, bro. I'm joking.
I need to do my homework. It's still a magnificent fight, regardless of my mistakes. Spence Crawford, huge, both unbeaten, both unlike Mayweather Pacquiao, still near or at their prime. All the major belts at 147 pounds. How excited are you for the fight?
I'm majorly excited, and I mean majorly excited. I've got a few friends that are going out to the fight, to go and watch the fight. Massive thank you to Richard Hoxton for sorting out their tickets. Big up, Richard. You know what I mean? The only man that I know that's got a direct link to Al Heyman. And I've got a black book, but Richard's, he's a don. It's a great fight because for years, if you speak to anyone on this fight, they would have their guy who they were going for, right? But as the fight is drawing nearer, everyone's like, I'm not too sure. And even more so, is like, I think a great guy to go and ask about this fight would be Kell Brook. And I spoke to Kell Brook yesterday. And Kell Brook, in the beginning, was adamant that Terence Crawford was going to win. And we was on the phone yesterday, and he said, Spence, I don't know now. I really don't know. It's like, I said, what? He said, I don't know. It's like, I think Spence is going to do him that. So it's one of those kind of fights. And there's loads of intangibilities into this fight because we have seen Errol Spence get hurt. We saw him get hurt against the Ugas in the Ugas fight. You saw him get hurt in that fight, right? And I think there was a fight early on in his career. I've forgotten the guy's name. He fought a Ghanaian guy, and the Ghanaian clipped him. Right, it was early on. It was like he's maybe his 5th fight in or something. I remember we got clipped. He got buzzed. But I've also seen Terence Crawford get buzzed. I've seen Terence Crawford get buzzed in the Gamboa fight. Kavaleskis floored him as far as I'm concerned, right? But then this one makes the fight so great because if we look at who brings more to the table, the person who actually brings more to the table is more multifaceted, is actually Terence Crawford, because he can do more. He's comfortable in boxing orthodox and southpaw. I remember Dave Coolwell worked in Ricky Burns' corner when Burns got dethroned of his WBO lightweight title. And I remember doing a tactical breakdown for Sky then. And I remember going to Tundi because like Sky gave me loads of little DVDs to go and watch with Terence Crawford. Say, go watch this guy because we want to get a good breakdown. Go big up my guy, Charles Lawrence. He's no longer at Sky now, but he's one of the producers. Said, go check this out. And I remember coming back and I said, this guy's going to be an all-time great, you know? And that was then. This 8 years ago. I was watching like, bloody hell. Man, Tundi was around my house and like, Tundi was like, nah, this guy, he's a G. And he is. He's superb. But he's the guy that brings more. He brings more of the sizzle, but he's got a stake. And with Errol Spence, there's a lot of sizzle with Errol Spence, with nice condiments around it. That's what Errol Spence is. And I I don't know how Errol Spence gets down to the weight, because I've been with Errol in Vegas when he's been out with his friends, and he's absolutely massive. He's got really big legs. I think Brian Cluster did an interview with him the other day, and Errol sat down in shorts. And if you saw the size of Errol's legs, my goodness gracious, it's a fantastic fight, right? It's a fantastic fight. And there's days where I lean to Terence Crawford, and I'm saying, is it because like I speak more regularly to Terence Crawford? And it's not, because Terence Crawford's fantastic, and he's a cool guy. But I also like Errol Spence. I like Errol Spence, and biasness is going to come into it. He's Jamaican descent, just like myself. You know what I mean? I spoke to Lennox Lewis. I said, Lennox, who you got? And Lennox was like, yam and banana. And yam and bananas, that's like our cultural food in Jamaica. And he's like, yeah. So he's like, yeah. I said, but I'm not, like I said, I'm intrigued for this fight. It's going to be a superb fight. When this fight was first muted 4 or 5 years ago, I was an overwhelming fan of Terence Crawford. But as it's drawn closer, and certain things are kind of in my head where like Errol Spence is saying, well, you ain't fought nobody at 147. And I'm saying that, but I say it's not his fault they ain't fought nobody, because everybody who wanted to fight was at PBC. Right? And that's the truth. But we can't take away, even though it was a slightly past peak Amir Khan, but he handled Amir Khan with relative ease. That was with ease. Amir Khan's no joke. I don't care what anyone say. With relative ease. He handled Brook with relative ease, right? And what he's really good at doing, they're both good at it. But what is like, Terence Crawford is very, very good at downloading information. So you think you'll get a relative success against him, which you are going to get, and then you could be down on rounds, but then he's figured out, okay, then, well, if you do this, I'm going to do that, and you do that, I'm going to do that. So he's constantly thinking. So he thinks like 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. This is what makes him so great. I'm not saying that Errol Spence doesn't think that way. But with Errol Spence, when Errol Spence downloads information, it's not at this, it's like one guy's on 3G and the other guy's on 6G. That's the difference, right? And that's why this fight is so intriguing, because there is something about Errol Spence that is kind of Marvin Hagler-esque, right? Like, both of them are throwback fighters, but Errol Spence is more a throwback fighter when it comes to that toughness of, right, I'm just going to grind you down, right? And it's weird how when you speak to boxers, it was like, a few weeks ago, we had the great Ray Mancini on the show, and I said, Ray Mancini, who are you going for? And Ray Mancini said, yeah, he's going through like, he said Errol Spence. But I can see why, because there's a similarity in styles, that toughness, that, you get what I'm trying to say?
Right.
Or if you speak to somebody, right, you speak to somebody who's their archetypal excellence of boxing is a skill star, someone who's slick, who's someone who can box, move, and you know, then you're gonna think, well, they're gonna choose Terence Crawford, right? There is no overwhelming favorite in this fight, even though Terence Crawford is meant to be a slight favorite going into this, apparently, right? Yeah. At the book. But we're gonna have to see. I speak to loads of people on this, and every time I speak to people, I like to not get swayed by no one's decisions. I say, nah, shut your mouth. But certain times when fights get brought up and that, I like to go with my original thoughts. And my original thoughts when this fight was first muted 5 years ago, 4 years ago, whenever it was, I was saying Terence Crawford. And because of that, then I'm going to go stick with it. But I guarantee you, Dan, you phone me on Friday morning and I'm going to be saying Errol Spence is going to do it. It's one of them ones we don't rightly know. And that's why it's such a good fight. And it's something that, which is so nice. I'll tell you the next thing, which is really rewarding. None of these gentlemen are like Floyd Mayweather, it's braggadocio. They don't, I mean, you don't see them out with loads of different women. You don't see them multi-flossing or showing a great deal of money. Or I'm not knocking Floyd Mayweather for that because it's worked for him, right? They've done nothing but that. But these men are earning fantastically well by not doing any of those kind of things. They've been, if you look at Errol Spence is he's kind of reclusive, right? Right, he's kind of, apart from when he's crashing vehicles, right?
Yeah,
but he's kind of reclusive. So
Spencer Fearon's back. Just before we were unfortunately interrupted, you were talking about the reclusive nature, with one notable exception, of Errol Spence.
Yeah, he is. They're both that way inclined. If you think about it, they're not. So yeah, this is what I think is really, really good. I think both of these guys are a credit to the sport on their behavior. There's no scandals on any of these guys. There's no madness. They're sportsmen, and that's what they are. They're sportsmen. And for them to have been Errol Spence being at the top of the game for a hot minute, it's not. Terence Crawford going through the weights and being the top boy in what he's done. I think this is an excellent fight, man.
You talked earlier about Errol Spence's size, particularly how big his legs are, and how somehow he makes the weight. He's obviously been at that weight for a lot longer than Terence Crawford. But in a fight where Crawford can do so many different things, as you've already mentioned, how important is that size advantage? Is it even an advantage for Spence?
It is an advantage, but it's also depending on how he does the weight. If he's done the weight good, it is going to be a massive advantage for him, because if you can lean on Terence Crawford, if you can bully him, but don't get twisted, Terence Crawford is ridiculously strong. You see him, he just walks into a gym in his jeans and a t-shirt and just deadlifts some mad weight. So he's incredibly strong anyway. You know, like I said, this is all the reasons why this is so mouth-watering. I'm getting so many phone calls from everyone saying they can't wait for this fight, because it's one of those fights. It's one of those fights. It's a fight of the ages, and I just hope that it will live up to all expectations. In fact, I know that it is going to live up to all expectations. I'm surprised that you are not out there, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, we as a channel are out there. I don't get to make the great trips anymore. Similar to you, childcare issues. Kids ruin your life. What can I say? They make your life and they ruin it simultaneously.
But you know what? It's like when you really look back and everything, your children are going to remember the little things that you did for them. Yeah. And sometimes, and it's not a sacrifice. When you could go here. For the greatness of platforms like Zoom calls and things like that, makes things a whole lot easier. And I would say to everyone, just keep on pushing forward, man. Just keep on pushing forward.
And one day we'll sit on the sofa, 20 years' time, we'll be watching the replay of Crawford Spence, and I'll turn to my son and say, I could have been there if it weren't for you.
Yeah, but you got to give him a clip as well. Like,
yeah, smack him back in the edge, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? I also want to say this: a massive big up to Maxi Hughes, right? Right, he got disgustingly jobbed on the weekend, and he's such a well-natured, lovely guy who just took it like, all right, cool, and I'm gonna go and continue. Massive big up to Maxi Hughes. If we want to talk about a British boxing ambassador, then Maxi Hughes is that person, because I know other people that could have been in that situation, they would have kicked off. It could have been nuts, and he just took it as a man that he is, and I hopefully that he gets another big fight, because and he's being very open. All I want to do is take care of my family. But here is a man that he has mastered his art. He's mastered his art. You remember him back mainly when he was losing fights back in the day? Look where he's come from. Maxi Hughes, seriously, if anybody has made me feel proud, say like real British pride, is Maxi Hughes. Incredible ambassador for the sport, incredible boxer. And he got jobbed the other day. And Kambosos, deep down in his heart, not even deep down, he has to delve deep. He knows that he got jobbed. And I rate Timothy Bradley for kicking off the way that he did in the studio, because he didn't have to, because really and truly, Kambosos is still like the house fighter. So, you know, hopefully that he'll get another big fight. I mean, my fingers are crossed that he gets another big fight.
What's the reason in your view? Because everyone's like, well, is it corruption or is it incompetence? It's 3 scores there that are all failing to adhere to what the general public think, not just one. You know, there was 1 draw, 2 wins for Kambosos.
It was one I could see, like the one judge that gave it a draw, right? I could see him because he went 140, 140. I could actually see that.
Okay.
I could see why they went there, right? Because of the supposed aggressive nature of Kambosos, right? But he was being nullified all the time. And maybe certain people cannot, in their mindset, coagulate British boxing skills, especially coming from a southpaw and a sneaky southpaw at that. Maybe they don't see it. They want to see people being more aggressive based. I get it, but they gave it a draw, right? And at a draw, then you say, oh, Kambosos, you're lucky. You're lucky.
Yeah.
But there was some judge to come, and what was it, 118, 111, or what was it?
117, 111, was it? Or
well, yeah, some madness like that. Now I'm saying you are really taking the piss, me. You know what I mean? And that's hurtful. That's hurtful, because here is somebody that's dedicated his life, and he has done that in Maxi Hughes for some, and like to leave your future in the hands of incompetence, right? I'm not going to say it's corruption,
sure,
but what I do believe is like there was a general consensus that overtakes things. It's like an energy, like, oh well, this is how the game is, and you know what I mean, he's kind of a house fighter, so he's going to be up, or sometimes they're watching it, and boxing is difficult to judge. So you turn up and you don't know a fighter, and they're doing relatively well, you're not going to score it for him because you don't know him. You don't know him. And then also, I want to know, what is the competence of these judges that are sitting down judging? Because I guarantee you, Danny, if you went to any of these judges, majority of these judges, and say, show me how to throw a left hook. Show me how to throw a jab. Show me how to step in. You know what I mean? Show me how to, you know what I mean? Show me how to do a parry, then shimmy over to the left, then throw a left hook to the body, left hook to the head, then come out with the right hand. They couldn't show it to you. But yet these are the ones who are judging what they believe is going to be, which is greatness. And no, I get it. You know, I'm not a Michelin star chef. If I went into a restaurant and I paid good money for food, and I said, well, this didn't stand up, I don't like it, it doesn't taste too good, all the rest of it, I get it, right? And nobody couldn't complain to me because that's my taste. But for you, in order to really judge this kind of thing, I would want to hear it from people who are my peers, or they've got that much more knowledge that I could say they're actually my superiors. Certainly judges get a bring in because they fancy a bit of boxing, and then they get a job, right? So there's got to be more. It's got to be more structured to how judges get into their position in the first place, right? That's what I'm saying. Because when they're saying they're judging fights, I'm saying, how are you actually scoring fights? And the scoring of the fights, especially what I witnessed on the weekend to Maxi Hughes, was absolutely ridiculous. And I'm saying more ex-fighters or ex-coaches should become judges, because certain judges don't know what they're watching. And that is the truth. They don't know what they're watching. And they go with the general consensus, well, he's a house fighter. He won that round. Don't work like that. I mean, boxing is so technical. It is so, there should be courses. I should, you know what, I should start a course, right? And where you can sit down and I go through like loads of old time historical fights and say, well, what's this guy doing for what he's not doing? Can you see the beauty of what they're doing for what they're not doing? And are they scoring? Because the telling thing is this, it's not necessarily who hit somebody with a knuckle. That's the scoring factor. It's the overall picture. And are they judging the overall picture? They're not. They're going by their own biased general consensus. He's a house fighter. He's up. Nah, that's bullshit, man.
I agree. So, yeah, sympathy for Maxi Hughes. But hopefully this opens doors. Maybe not as many as if he got the decision, but hopefully it still opens some doors for him.
Well, I hope and I pray that it does, because Maxi Hughes is good people. And he's real. He's real. He's like a meat and gravy kind of guy. You know what I mean? There's no real flash to him. He just wants to go and do his job. And he's been so consistent over the last few years, just properly applied himself to his trade. And as far as I'm concerned, Maxi Hughes is a hero, right? He's a hero from like where he's come back, where nobody didn't rate him to go do anything. And he's just constantly just applied himself. And he's been consistent and persistent. And Maxi still the sky's the limit for you. I think there's some great things still coming for you. And I just hope that you get another big fight.
Good stuff. Nice sentiments. Spencer, really appreciate your time, mate. I hope the sciatica spell clears up.
Mate, it's clearing. Clearing, bro. It's clearing. Thank you very much. And big up Seconds Out, man.
Thank you. Take care, mate. Speak to you soon.